These are pictures inside Hong Kong's international airport. These are live pictures. And thousands of people, as you can see from these images, are there for a 3-day sit-in. It is the 10th straight weekend of anti-government protests in the city. These are outside that same airport. We know that demonstrators have been chanting, "Democracy now, stop police brutality." Meanwhile, the United States has become the latest country to issue a travel warning for Hong Kong, urging its citizens to be cautious about the sometimes violent protests that have been sweeping the city. So let's bring in Ben Wedeman. Ben is at the Hong Kong airport sit-in and joins us now live. Ben, just talk us through what's happening right now, where you are. Hi, Ben.
This has been going on, Robin, for much of the day here in Hong Kong International Airport. We are seeing thousands of people have come to hold this mass protest in the arrivals hall of the airport. They are not coming here to cause trouble or disrupt the operations of the airport, merely to bring their protest here. They want to send a message because, of course, the United States and several other countries issued travel advisories. And in fact, arriving visitors receive this when they get here: is Hong Kong safe for travelers? And in this leaflet, it is explained that no travelers have been harmed, or tourists have been harmed in the protests. They do warn, however, that if you are a visitor and near the protests, there's a high probability if the police show up, you could be tear gassed. And therefore the advice in this leaflet is once the tear gas is fired, better clear out of there. Now, one bit of information we've just received within the last hour is that the Chinese Civil Aviation Authority has put out a notice that they believe that there are crew members with Cathay Pacific, the flag carrier of Hong Kong, who have some way participated in these demonstrations. This notice says that Cathay Pacific must stop sending those who have participated in the protests on flights to mainland China beginning midnight tonight local time, and that going forward, Cathay Pacific will have to submit the names of all crew members to be approved by the Chinese authorities. So clearly Beijing increasingly unhappy at the unrest here. But as I said, the unrest here today is peaceful. What you're seeing here is people who are writing their notes, their little notepads of support for the pro-democracy movement here in Hong Kong. And certainly what we've seen is that even though this is the 10th consecutive weekend of these protests, the protests began exactly 2 months ago today, on the 9th of June. They are simply not running out of steam. Robin?
No, they're certainly not. And just give us some idea as to why these protests have, at least for now, moved inside to the Hong Kong airport.
More than anything, for its symbolic value. And what the protest movement has done over the last weeks, it tries to make its activities variable, unpredictable. So, for instance, last weekend there was a lot of street protests, and here it appears that the focus, at least today, Friday, the focus is on the international airport. And by the number of journalists here, they seem to be actually succeeding in attracting a lot of attention. This protest at the airport is scheduled to continue today, Saturday, and Sunday. And in addition to that, of course, there will be protests in Hong Kong itself on Saturday and Sunday as well. Many of these protests, they applied for permission to hold them, but they were not granted. So it's a touch-and-go situation here. No riots, only tyranny. One of the protest movement's 5 demands is that the government here stop referring to the protesters as rioters. And their protests are not riots, they insist they are peaceful protesters. And it appears that really the top of the 5 demands at the moment is they want an independent inquiry into police behavior during these protest because there is a widespread feeling that the police have engaged in brutality.
I and my principal officials have been meeting different sectors in Hong Kong as part of our work to engage them, to discuss what we should do during this political crisis and to prepare for the policy address. So this afternoon session was entirely devoted to the economic sectors. But it doesn't mean that we are not meeting with other people. I think we are meeting with the teachers, we are meeting with the medical sector, and I'm meeting with the members of the Legislative Council as well. So, but the economy is something very important for every one of us in Hong Kong, unless a small minority of people, as you have said, they did not mind destroying Hong Kong's economy. They have no stake in the society which so many people have helped to build. And that's why they resort to all this violence and obstructions, causing huge damage to the economy and to the daily life of the people. So I am indeed very worried about this situation. And that's why I appeal for calmness and rationality to help us to overcome this situation. And this is also the consensus view of 33 members from the business sector that they have told us during the session we just had with them.
Hi there, and thank you for this. Can I ask, why do you keep giving press conferences if you aren't going to outline further solutions? Your critics have said that you haven't outlined any solutions to the political crisis yet, and you've declined to have an independent inquiry.
As you will notice, since Monday this week, we have put in place 2 regular press conferences. One is by the police to give you an account of what has happened over the last 24 hours, especially to provide clarifications. That is very important because we are confronted with so many misrepresentations, misperceptions, misunderstandings, rumors, speculations, or even fake news circulating around. So to have the police coming out on a daily basis to explain and clarify is one of the important parts of our strategy, so that people will not get too fearful and too worried and too maybe misunderstanding the situation. The second that we have put in place is interdepartmental press briefing or media stand-up like this to talk about the non-police elements. Because as this sort of situation spreads, we are now facing a lot of issues, not confining to the police operations. So we have economic issues, we have transport disruption issues. We may also have, sooner or later, some medical and health issues as a result of this political crisis. As far as political solution is concerned, I don't think we should just sort of make concessions in order to silence the violent protesters. We should do what is right for Hong Kong. And at this moment, what is right for Hong Kong, as we have heard all our 33 business representatives told us, is to stop the violence and to say no to the chaotic situation that Hong Kong has experienced in the last few weeks, so that we can move on. And when we move on, we will hope that we could tackle the more fundamental and deep-seated problems that may have surfaced as a result of this particular situation.